Welcome back. It's time for lesson 14 in first year Latin, last lesson in week 3, which means we've got quite a long writing assignment after this lesson to keep you busy. We're on page 26 in first year Latin. We're going to learn about the indirect object and relations of place. Review 7.4, the present indicative of sum. Let's just do that right now. Sum, est, sumus, estis, sunt. And the imperfect and future of sum, which we just learned last lesson. So on the bottom of page 24, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. That should just be part of your daily review of vocabulary. Likewise, ero, eris, erit, eramus, eritus, erant. Likewise, just part of your daily review of your paradigms and vocabulary. Remember, that's 99% of first year Latin. Memorizing the vocabulary, memorizing the forms. It'll click together if you get that stuff memorized. Part 2 on page 26, place. Relations of place are expressed as follows. Place from which, that's expressed by the ablative with ob, which can also just be spelled a, de, or ex, as in ex silvis, from the forest. Place to which is expressed by the accusative with od or in, as in ad silvam, to the forest, or in silvam, into the forest. Note, do not use the dative to express the end of motion. After a verb of motion, use the accusative with od or in. Okay, so motion toward is the accusative with these prepositions od or in. Place where, or in, or on, is expressed by the ablative with in, as in porta, at the gate, on the gate, in aqua, in or on the water. Note, names of towns and small islands do not require a preposition in any of these constructions. Okay, so if you're going to go to Rome, you just say Roma. And note in part B, in giving the places where or in which, an old case called the locative has survived in the names of towns and small islands of the first and second declensions, singular number only. The ending is I or e, like the genitive. Romae means at Rome. Corinthi means at Corinth. Okay, don't worry so much about that. It'll make sense as you go along. Indirect object. The indirect object of a transitive verb is in the dative. A transitive verb is like I give something to someone. An intransitive verb is I stand, right? I stand on the ground. Right? That distinction will become more clear as we go along. Such as poeta pecuniam agricolae dat. The poet gives money to the farmer. The poet gives money to the farmer. Agricolae is the indirect object of the verb dat, so it's in the dative. Some vocabulary, you need to add these, of course, to your cards. Cena, repeat. Cena is a dinner or supper. Historia is a history or just a story. Patria is one's fatherland, native land, country. Unda is a wave. And some verbs that are conjugated like laudo. Aro, I plow. Nomino, so I name something. Paro, I prepare or I make ready. Pugno, I fight. Recito, I read or I read aloud, I recite. Eri is yesterday, it's an adverb. Ubi is another adverb where. So an adjective describes a noun, so like alba, waka alba, the white cow. But an adverb describes how a verb happens. So I ate something yesterday, right? Or where are you eating, and so forth. Okay, So that's the only new material. Some new vocabulary. Talk about how you get from one place to another with ablative, accusative, and ablative. Place from which, place to which, place where, or place in. And how to use the indirect object. Review that. Pause the video. Do your best on page 27 to do part B, translate into English. And then I'll come back and go through those verbally. And we're back to review page 27, part B. I'll read the sentence, you repeat. Femina caenam puellis in culina parat. Femina caenam puellis in culina parat. What is in the nominative? Femina. What is the verb? Where's that at? Usually at the end. Parat. The woman prepares. What does she prepare? She needs a direct object. Caenam. The woman prepares supper. For whom does she prepare it? Puellis. She prepares it for the girls. Right? Dative, plural. The woman prepares supper for the girls in culina, in the kitchen. Now it could be that puellis is in the ablative, right? The woman prepares supper with the girls in the kitchen, right? You would have to know more about the context to decide that, but you could read this Latin sentence either way. 2. Hodie caena magna erit. Hodie caena magna erit. What's in the nominative? Caena. What's the verb? Erit. So the skeleton of the sentence is, supper will be. Supper will be big today. Right? There will be a big supper today. 3. Erratisne heri in insula. Erratisne eri in insula. So, note here, there's nothing in the nominative. Here's a case where you don't have anything in the nominative. All you have is the verb, which is erratis, which is second person plural, past tense of sum. So what does that mean? Second person plural, past tense. Erratis. You all were. Here it's a question with net on the end. Were you guys on the island yesterday? Were y'all on the island yesterday? 4. Poeta historiam patriae narrat. Poeta historiam patriae narrat. What's in the nominative? Poeta. What's the verb? Narrat. Skeleton of the sentence. The poet narrates. The poet tells. What does he tell? Needs something in the accusative, which is historiam. The poet tells the history of the fatherland. Patriae, genitive singular, of the fatherland. Rosae albae eri in insula erant. Ubi sunt hodie? Rosae albae eri in insula erant. Ubi sunt hodie? Nominative? Rosae, nominative plural. Verb? Erant. Skeleton of the sentence? Roses were. Roses, white roses, rosae albae. White roses were on the island yesterday. Ubi sunt hodie? Where are they today? Recitasne literas. Recitasne literas. Nothing in the nominative, just a verb. Recitas. It's got ne on the end just because it's a question. Recitasne literas? Do you recite letters? Do you recite letters? This would be how someone in Latin would ask, can you read? Do you recite letters? Do you read letters? Nauta undas magnas in aqua alta vidit. Nauta undas magnas in aqua alta vidit. What's in the nominative? What's the verb? What's the skeleton of the sentence? What does that mean? The sailor sees. What does he see? Undas magnas, big waves. Where does he see it? In aqua alta, in deep water. The sailor sees big waves in deep water. So now, your additional exercises for this week to practice up is Wheelock Chapter 2, odd numbers only. So you get out your Wheelock, turn to page is 413 and 414, and you do for Chapter 2, do the odd numbers only, and then those of course have an answer key. That answer key begins on page 446. So this is your chance to get some practice writing and some self-correcting practice. These are not graded out of Wheelock. You'll be much better off, you'll do better on the quizzes if you faithfully do the practice out of Wheelock. And you also need to continue studying your vocabulary and your forms, your paradigms, and that's what you'll be quizzed on. On the quiz there will also be, very short translations. But all through Latin 1, we're really going to focus on getting those vocabulary memorized, vocabulary words memorized, and getting the paradigms memorized. The translation we do to keep ourselves fresh, to start to put it together, but don't freak out if you find the translation very difficult at this point. That's okay. Keep learning your vocabulary, learn your paradigms. It'll all come together, especially when we get to Latin readings. This does it for week 3. See you next time.